Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day. I wanted to respond to one of the comments that was left on a video that I had posted over on YouTube. It's one of the lives that I did the other day. And I just want to read the first part of it and kind of talk about it. It says, if I don't get allowed to have sex with her at least 2 times a week, I would get so frustrated that I would probably have to go to a massage lady or to a swinger club to get satisfied. So, my love, I really, I really want to talk about this because it's important for you to realize that there are many, many times during a long-term relationship when one or the other of you might not be able to engage in sexual activity, and that the person that is maybe initiating and being turned down shouldn't feel like there's an ulterior motive and shouldn't feel any pressure when they're turning the person down. So if you've set an expectation in your relationship that you expect to be pleased twice a week, I'm hoping that her pleasure is part of that equation as well. But even if it's not, or especially if it's not, the fact that you feel like you're entitled to that pleasure twice a week, regardless of what might be going on for her as an individual, or maybe what might be going on in your household or in life in general. And that puts an enormous amount of pressure and strain on her. And it also devalues her to the point where her role is just to please you in this way. And it really doesn't matter to you whether she is wholeheartedly a participant or if she feels coerced into it in some way. Because if you're holding this power dynamic of, if my partner won't please me, I'm going to go outside of the relationship. That's unfair to your partner. You're leaving her feeling very, very insecure about your relationship. And when a person feels insecure in their relationship, it's really hard for them to be fully vulnerable and fully engaged and open to having a really great experience in the bedroom. So you're actually hurting her chances of enjoying this act that should be enjoyable for both of you by having this sort of stipulation. And by leaving her feeling even more vulnerable that, if she's not willing to step up and meet your needs, that you'll just go elsewhere. Not only are you making her feel unsafe in that way, if you were to step out of your relationship in that way and you were unsafe in doing that, you also then make her vulnerable to whatever you might bring back. So there's lots of different reasons why I really have a challenge with this. If your belief is that you, for whatever reason, you need or want sex certain number of times a week, and it has to, happen in this certain way with this certain outcome, if that's your belief, and that's okay if you have that belief. I'm not suggesting that you don't have that belief. Maybe monogamy isn't for you. And the reason I say this is because I've talked all kinds of videos about all the different ways in which intimacy can be blocked by various things. That there are sometimes barriers that happen in life. There's maybe a medication that you're taking for a certain condition that you have. Maybe you are under an enormous amount of stress. Maybe your diet or exercise needs to change in order for blood flow to happen more easily, or maybe you're dealing with a chronic pain condition or a chronic health condition that makes it hard for you to engage in physical intimacy. There's so many different things. And then when you add in what happens through to a female body throughout their lifetime, especially if they're, pregnant and giving birth to children, like, come on. Like, just come on. There are going to be times when your spouse is unavailable, and I get that maybe you have a certain, perception in your mind about, you know, the way in which you can be pleased. And I would really hope that you could expand your mind. And then I would also suggest that you really figure out a way to please yourself, that you be willing to take this expectation off the table or out of your relationship, and take that pressure off of your spouse, because I think it's going to really lead to a lot of resentment on both your sides, especially when life kind of throws a wrench in things and you're not able to be physically intimate. It's going to cause a lot of strife in your relationship if that's the thinking that you're hanging on to. So I really would, hope that you can expand your thinking on this. And then, he does go on to say, I think I'm an average guy in that way, but I also have a bit of a dirty side, which only my wife knows. I love to warm her up with some dirty messages on the phone when on the Wednesday and Saturday. So what I think he's saying is that, he is sharing his maybe more kinky side with his spouse, which is lovely. So I'm not completely bashing this guy or this person. And that he's, doing some things to kind of keep the love alive. And, and I've talked about how foreplay starts outside of the bedroom. So, good on that. And if that's something that she really enjoys, I think that's really lovely. And the fact that they have it scheduled, I think is great. I'm not against schedules, because I think that if you form an intention, it's more likely that something will happen if you have that intention and you keep that as a priority. So I think having it as set days is actually really good, because then you can look forward to it. So there can be a little bit of anticipation, which is exciting, especially for the energetic blueprint. So, just kind of keeping that sense of excitement going through the week of on Wednesday, or Saturday, I got this planned, or I was hoping we could do this, or, would you be wanting to do that, or whatever. Like, you can really, build up that tension so that it's really, really exciting come Wednesday or Saturday. So I think that's lovely. I just really would caution that maybe you sort of keep that spark alive, so that it doesn't become a rut of Wednesday and Saturday, and that there is some flexibility in that, because again, life throws little curveballs and sometimes big curveballs in the way, and it, sometimes it happens that Wednesday or Saturday or both might not happen, right? Illness, an injury, having to travel or so, lots of different things, like just everyday things can get in the way, right? And we want to make sure that we don't let those things get in the way all the time, and that we do make space, and we do make that intention, and we do have that, we keep that spark alive, but we need to be flexible. And if you can't be flexible in that, then maybe monogamy is not for you. So if you're thinking, maybe you're right, maybe monogamy is not for me, so now what? Well, I mean, I've seen that open relationships can be done in a really healthy and respectful way. I think it's a little bit more challenging to introduce it into a relationship that started off as being a monogamous relationship, especially if one person is really deeply entrenched in monogamy. And I think that that's okay that they are. I'm not suggesting that they should give up their beliefs if that's something that they hold as a value and belief for themselves. it's not for anyone to tell them that they're wrong. The problem is that if you're in that relationship with a person who wants to be monogamous and wants to and holds that as an important tenet of the relationship, suggesting that you open the relationship is probably not going to go over well. So, hopefully I'm talking to some people who maybe aren't in relationships right now, and they're sort of trying to figure out what they want going forward. The reality is that if you don't take that time to do that introspection and really get to know yourself and your thoughts and beliefs around these things, then it can be easy to get into relationships that lead to resentment and lead to unmet needs because you're not being fully authentic when you're going into the relationship. So if you're single and you're meeting people with the intention of having, an intimate relationship with them, but you know that monogamy is not something that you really want or believe in, then you should be able to state that up front and find people who also have that, frame of mind. So it's really imperative that you don't go seek out people who are emphatically saying, I'm looking for my soulmate, I'm looking for someone to settle down with in a monogamous relationship. Having these conversations long before you even meet in person is really important, and just being real about what you want and what you need so that everyone gets their needs met. And if you are already in a monogamous relationship and you're having these sort of thoughts and you're struggling and maybe you're putting some of that pressure on your partner and you don't want to do that, then I really suggest that you learn some self-love practices, explore the realm of toys, explore maybe do some exploration on Tantra and as a solo practice as well as maybe as a partner practice. Think about using these feelings within your relationship to create maybe scenarios that you play out with your partner so that you can keep that spice alive, but also recognize that life happens and you're going to need to be able to roll with it and to not put it all on your partner to meet all of your needs, whether that's physical, emotional, or spiritual. Like, it's not fair to put all of that onto one person. Stop doing that. And I don't mean that then that gives you permission to go outside your relationship if you're in a monogamous relationship. I'm saying take ownership for your own pleasure. And not to the exclusion of your partner. Like, don't exclude your partner from your erotic and sensual desires. I'm just saying there's going to be times when you need to look after you. And you should do that without resentment. Like, really look at it as an opportunity to really just give yourself some self-love and care, right? And so maybe you can change your thinking around this, okay? So I wanted to share that because maybe this is the average guy. And if that is you, then I really invite you to do some introspection here and do some thinking. And if you're a woman in a relationship with a guy who is putting that kind of pressure on you, you need to know that that's not for you to take care of and entirely. So they need to take ownership, and you need to set those boundaries. So I hope you found this helpful. Thanks for joining me today. Namaste.